Okay, no, we are live. We are live on the
We're
web.
live.
It's wonderful.
Bright and early where you are, Ellen, I think.
Yes, it's actually kind of cloudy and early, but yes.
Cloudy and early. Maybe cold, maybe even cold.
Yes.
I don't want to perpetuate stereotypes about Canadian weather, but
Well, no, it hasn't. We had a really warm week, but it hasn't been a really warm spring, particularly. What is it right now? I think it's -1. So yeah.
-1. I'll stick to it.
No,
greetings.
Are you in Vietnam? Sorry.
I'm in Vietnam. I'm in Vietnam in Ho Chi Minh City.
Oh yeah, sweet.
Tim, where are you?
I'm in Plymouth in my mum's house. I got the whole place to myself at the moment, which is weird because yeah, I know it's one of those like old Victorian houses, which is like unnecessarily large. It's weird having like being able to walk around and like, well, having to walk around to go to different places after, you know, what, like 7 years in tiny Asian flats, so or tiny Asian apartments. So yeah, it's
You can say I'm American, but I understand. It's okay.
Yeah.
you understand? It's you mean like the packed furniture? I don't know.
We miss your orange background though, Tim.
Yeah, I know. I need to sort it out. I have got a new background. I've got one background in Spain, one in London, and I have got one here, but I've just not put it up yet. So yeah, I've got backgrounds in every city I might end up in. So yeah, but not
Teresa,
here. I'm afraid.
Teresa says hi from Spain. We got some familiar faces here, some new faces. So I'll welcome. Oh, hello, Trey Trefel in Korea. Hello. I'll welcome everybody. My name is Mike. Our special guest today is Tim Hampson, who's what's your title at the organization, Tim?
Creative director, apparently.
Creative director.
Isn't the joke that creative is an adjective, not part of the title? Because I think director is like a legal term in the UK. So.
And what's the ELT Workshop? This is the tough question.
The ELT Workshop is a small press publishing company that also organizes little events like this one and publishes, I think, very interesting and useful little books. But yeah, we just kind of, it's often also an excuse to do stuff like this as well. So yeah.
All right, thank you. And so today's meeting is pretty relaxed. Tim spent too much time preparing for his portion of it after he told people like Sarah and Gisem not to prepare too much or to worry. He was stressing out. I have it on good authority that he was stressed out preparing. So do as he says, not as he does, is what he said, is what he thought. In any case, so welcome to the session again, everybody. The way that we start things off to get ourselves warmed up and maybe to get you warmed up and maybe to have a tiny little bit of fun, we start with workshopping, which is a kind of a game in which we prepare certain answers to a question or responses to a category, and then we sort of just go around and share them. Usually it's myself and Tim and the guest. The guest almost always wins, even though it's not a competition. I think Tim will win today. Our category is bad names for English language schools. And you can take that however you want to take it. What does bad mean? There's a little bit of flexibility there. So that's our category, bad names for English language schools. Tim, since you're the guest, I'd like to have you go first. You can pitch it to us, and other people who are there, you can, smile, laugh, shake your head, no, type anything in the chat box, share your own much better ideas.
Leave the meeting in disgust. Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, so please do share some in the chat because these are all terrible. So I'm sure you can do a much better job than I have. So my first name bad name for a language school is I was a bit conflicted about including this one because the original name of the real language school is also a very bad, terrible name. So yeah, but I kind of think that a lot of what big ELT schools and chains of schools do is more about advertising than about doing anything else useful. So instead of having a language school called Wall Street English, I'm going to go with Madison Avenue English, because that's another New York street with an advertising connection.
Oh.
But is the company British?
Is Wall Street English British?
They have the big British flag with Wall Street English.
I believe they're owned by Pearson.
Failing Pearson
really?
education.
Oh, wow.
Which we're not gonna get into that today.
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn.
Yeah,
and once again, our topic is bad names for language. Oh, thank you, Tim. Good job. Well played. Once again, our category is bad names for language schools. Maybe I was being very lazy in making my submissions for this workshopping, but I was thinking not like specific ones, but just in general. So the bad names that I want to highlight now would be anything that uses like a so-called native speaking country in their title. So British English Authority. Down the street from me here, there's easy American English pronunciation. American this, British this, Canadian this. No offense again, Canadians. So anything that has the so-called native-speaking country in the title. Also, maybe bonus points for a city or region, but for now, I just want to say country name.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, and I think well, I'm going to be talking about YouTube teaching in a little bit, so I guess that one's there's a lot of sound like a British person in just 2 weeks kind of stuff going on over there. So maybe we'll get onto that again later on.
There's one in Korea called New York English.
GISM is winning so far.
New York English, I have some comments on that too, but I'm going to...
It exists, I mean.
I like Sarah's name too, but that one, the GISMs, that's pretty
So I don't know if you can see this in the chat that Gizm's posted. I hope this is not real. But yeah, there's a very interesting image. I'll let you guys open that up on your own. And
you're not
do it without being recorded, so my response is not
well,
safe.
as far as I know, it is.
I could imagine that it was. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have a feeling it's something I don't want to see right now.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a link up there
in the chat. You can get, yeah, you find it. I've got it now, so if anyone wants to have a look later, but yeah.
Oh, you're not bold enough to share your screen?
Yeah, share your screen because it's an image to download, but I can't seem to do it.
Yeah, and it's a real.
Okay, we can. Yeah, give me a second. I've made my window.
Yeah, it starts when you log on home. So Reld Henna can't see it because they weren't.
Okay. So this is.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I had the right sense.
So yeah. Okay. I think that speaks for itself.
That's a winner.
Okay. Right.
You said the only two-time winner for the workshopping category.
I'm gonna just quit the game now. That's
she's not even the guest necessarily, but so Tim, hurry up and say yours.
Okay, so my next one, one of the big topics in like sociology of ELT, and people debate if it's a good thing or a bad thing, is the internationalization of education, and is that linked to globalization and blah, blah, blah. I wrote an essay on it. So one of the first ones I came up with for this was internationalization house, which is terrible. I don't think we need to say too much about that, but yes, okay.
This is the beauty of this wonderful game workshopping that I invented. People take it in their own directions.
Yeah.
I just have sort of general categories and you have specific bad examples that you invented, which I think gives you some points. My next one is actually related to my previous point. I sort of let it slip out. Any language school title that has the word easy in it. is also a bad one from my perspective. So if you have that word simple or easy or something like that, I feel that maybe it's a bad title because you're misleading your customers.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, one of the names that maybe we could have used or should have used for the language school I'm going to be talking about earlier is we're going to call it Learn English the Hard Way, because when I was learning like Python and programming, there's a very famous course called Learn Python the Hard Way. And it's all about like just doing the thing over and over again until you get good at it. And so I thought Learn English the Hard Way would be a really good name for a course, like philosophically, but in terms of marketing, no one's going to click on that link. So
but maybe it self-selects the right people who want to be there and need to be there.
The masochist market is who we're really going
yes.
for. Yeah,
the burgeoning masochist market.
Yeah,
you could do a really great theme song for that school, I think.
Is it back to me already?
No, it's my one next. It's my final one. So so the last one, I always have one like insufferably woke one in there. So one thing that really annoys me about a lot of language schools is they prefer monolingual teachers to like multilingual teachers. So I think with that in mind, if you were going to make an app for learning languages, you might want to call it monolinguo instead of Duolingo.
Is it so bad it's good? I don't know. I mean, no. the rule was to find a bad name, and I don't know. Maybe you've done it. Maybe, I don't know. It's good. It's good. It's bad.
It's bad. It's terrible.
Everything all wrapped up in one. And Matthew says demand low English. I like it. I like it. This is a nice one. I don't know what it would look like exactly, but I like it. I guess it's back to me now. And again, I didn't think of specific ones as the winner, Tim, did. But basically, I want to suggest that a bad language school is any name with just 3 letters. Any 3 letters in the name, I think is a recipe for being maybe just boring in terms of the name. I can't speak about the school or the teachers or the curriculum or anything like that, but just 3 random letters thrown together. I don't like it. I disapprove.
There we go. Okay,
so I got my woke ones out of the way, sort of already.
Yeah, no. So if anyone has any more in the chat, you can drop them. You can drop them in there. We'd love to see. But I think for this one, the winner is probably just actual real language schools like Wiz Island, where I used to work, and all sorts of other interestingly named language schools. So yes.
If they spell something, I'll accept it. But if it's just 3 random letters, I reject it. I judge it.
Like YBM?
For example. For example. Just for example.
That's a good one, you know, with the BM and everything.
Why?
So we're intercourse 3. Oh, Matthew.
He's going to give us steamy in the chat today.
Yes. Goodness gracious. I'm not usually the type to blush, but today I'm getting close twice. So if people have other suggestions, we'll await them in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll sort of move on to the next section, the next stage of our program for today. And this whole name of this session is What's Going On With You These Days, person name. And today that person is Tim. So Tim is going to talk for a few minutes about what's going on with him these days. And then he'll pose some questions for us to discuss in small groups. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the creative director for the ELT Workshop, Tim Hampson. You have the floor.
Yeah, I hope I've not got my good camera out today, so I hope my eye rolls are coming through to you there, Mike, when you say creative director. So like Mike said, I'm just going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on with me these days. So over the last kind of, it's hard to pick an exact start date, but I guess 6 months-ish, we've been working on an online language school as part of what the ELT Workshop does. And I've been kind of doing that. I quit my job and I've just been kind of hanging around and doing that. And so we started off by teaching for the IELTS test, which is one of the big international language tests that you can use to get into a university or get into get a visa for things. And so I think it's quite a serious test. So what's basically happened with it is we launched it, and we've had the online YouTube channel, and that's been slowly growing, and we have the website, which has been doing okay, and I've been adding lots of resources to the website and things like that. And we also I've been doing some advertising on YouTube, and been using what people call a lead magnet, which is basically you give something away for free and people give you their email addresses in exchange for that. And then you can kind of continue to send them useful information and things like that. And sometimes these are genuinely useful, and I'm sure everyone here has signed up for one of those, which is not particularly useful and is actually really, really annoying to get. But I try and make the emails useful and things like that. So we've got like 1,800 people on this email list now, which is really, really nice. And so things have been plodding along very nicely, and that's just been growing up to kind of the number where it's at now. And then, it's kind of in the last 2 months, it's been, right, it's time to make some money from this thing and start offering classes and start offering essay checking services and things like that. And then we launched them a couple of months ago, and just nothing happened. Like no one signed up whatsoever. It's really, really it's very, very frustrating. So I just I wanted to mention that because that's kind of what's going on with me these days. I'm not really gonna ask for advice and stuff on it, because I think it's such a, if you wanted to give advice, you'd probably have to make this talk an hour long to explain all the stuff that's going on. And without that, I think it's hard to give advice without context. So what I did want to do, instead of kind of asking for advice and going too deep into what the situation is I've got 4 thoughts that I've had from the process of the last six months of trying to set up this this school. And then I've got questions kind of related to them. So the first thought was, it really sucks not teaching. I've been doing a lot of stuff, and very little of it has actually been teaching. There's a lot of marketing, there's a lot of making videos, there's a lot of editing, but I really miss that kind of being in the classroom, just having interactions every day. I see Matthew's here, and Matthew is very good at posting interesting stuff that's happened to him in the classroom, or selfies with his students, and I bumped into my students in the supermarket, and so on and so on and so on. I just feel really jealous, and I kind of missed that a lot. I didn't realize how much I was going to miss it until that happened. So I don't have much to say about that one, but that's something I thought people might be interested to know, that I guess that experience of being in the classroom and kind of having those daily interactions is something you might miss more than you thought you would. The next thing I wanted to talk about to do with starting the school is about learning skills. So in the process of doing this, there's been a lot of things I've had to learn. I guess the big ones would be presenting to a camera or recording videos of yourself. And there's also marketing and editing video as well is something I've had to learn. And so some of these, things like presenting to a camera, it looks a lot like teaching, right? You are basically just there speaking to people. But it's actually really, really different. And I found it I kind of expected, I'll just stand up there and I'll start talking, and it'll be just like being in class, and I'll be amazing at it because I've done this for many, many years, and I think I'm all right as a teacher. And it wasn't like that at all. It was really, really tough. And it took a lot of editing to get those videos down to something that's even vaguely usable. And I also didn't have the editing skills back then. So it was doubly tough. So that was my first thought about learning skills, is some skills maybe look a lot like teaching, but they're not a lot like teaching. And the other thing I thought about learning skills was I kind of had this approach where if you just do something and every time you do it, you find something you didn't like about what you've done afterwards, and just try and fix that thing the next time. I didn't really sit down and like do a course in video editing, for example. I just did one and then picked something I hated about what I'd just done, and then just tried to fix that thing next time round. And sometimes it's like whack-a-mole, like you fix one problem and then you forget to fix the other problem next time you do it. But slowly, you know, like things get better and better and better over time. So yeah, so that's been an interesting experience, like picking up some of these skills. And I just find it quite interesting, just learning new things and picking up some of these kind of para-teaching skills, you might say. So yes, that's number 2. The third thought I've had from like starting this school was kind of about this. I don't know if other people feel the same way, but I was reflecting this week when I was preparing for this talk about this kind of like restlessness I often feel about teaching jobs, and I don't know if other people feel the same way. But I guess I've been teaching for maybe 6-7 years in Korea and in China. And for most of those years, I've done my 1-year contract. And then at the end of that, I've moved to what I consider to be a better job, or a job in a better, quote unquote, city. And then, yeah, I did stick around for a couple of years at my last job because I was doing my master's. But then the moment I graduate, I was like, right, I can't wait to get out this place, and I'm going to go and start my own thing. And yeah, you know, like, yeah. And I was kind of thinking like, oh, well, at the time I was just like, oh yeah, that looks like a better job. That looks like a better job. That looks like a better job. But maybe there's some kind of restlessness that's just about me, or I don't know if it's something that's very common in English language teachers. I think maybe English language teaching, because it's a job you often travel to other countries for, or many people travel to other countries to do this job. Maybe it does attract people who kind of want to jump around a lot and things like that. So yeah, so I don't really have any answers, but my thoughts were like, is this feeling of restlessness and wanting to move around, and maybe it's kind of, I don't know, like blaming, like, oh, if you don't feel completely satisfied with everything, like, oh, well, it's because of this job or it's because of this city, and I have the ability to just go somewhere else. So I'm going to just do that and assume that things are going to be better somewhere else. And maybe it's better to just be kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to teach, I'm going to do my thing, and just kind of be less restless about things. So is this restlessness common, and is it good or bad? So yeah. And then the last thing that's kind of come up is about issues around like access and English language. So at the moment, we've been focusing on teaching for the IELTS, which is this exam that is used for universities and visa applications. So it's a really important, like, it's a very high stakes test. And if you go on kind of any of the websites or any of the Facebook groups about this test, there's just a lot of terrible information and a lot of kind of the stuff that maybe the school names Mike was mentioning before would probably teach in this kind of way. And there's lots of like, how to sound like a native speaker for the IELTS exam in 7 days and blah, 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 videos on YouTube, which you're trying to compete with. And I guess maybe they're more, even though they're more BS, but they're also more clickable. So you kind of have an issue in fighting against some of those things. But yeah, so that's like one thing, but there's also a big disparity in terms of what people charge. And I think a lot of the people who are giving out good information tend to charge a lot. And so I just kind of feel a bit bad for students who don't have a lot of money, who are trying to like get access to these courses and get access to good information, because they might just like, they might be forced to pick teachers who don't really know what they're talking about, who are just kind of like peddling nonsense in a very kind of cheap way. And yeah, and then also I guess yeah, like I kind of feel bad because the idea is that eventually I'm going to be able to support myself to live in London doing this teaching. And I don't know how to lower my prices enough to help people who need help. So yeah, so I guess the thought I've been having around about it is obviously there's always a lot of talk about, oh, we need to improve equity for teachers and improve like who gets access to be a teacher, improve teachers' wages and things like that. And I think maybe, you know, like improving access to teaching for students is something maybe we should be talking about to an equal extent, because I think it's also really important. And, you know, like these are super high stakes exams. So like maybe that's something we need to be thinking about more. But the counterpoint, I guess, Mike sometimes compares teachers to plumbers. You know, we do very important and skilled work, but the discourse around teachers and plumbers are very different, right? So you can kind of use this comparison like between teachers and plumbers when it comes to professional development and things. And so like it sounds very sensible when I say those things about teachers, but maybe the counterpoint would be, I don't like plumbing is very important because it like gives access to fresh water and things like that, but you never hear discourse about, oh, what can plumbers do to make their services more accessible to everyone and blah, 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 blah. So my last idea was just kind of like, what can teachers do to make this kind of good quality teaching more accessible? Yeah, like is the onus even on teachers to do that? Is it like a structural issue that we need to change politically, or is the onus on teachers to do that? So yeah, so those are my 4 ideas I had. And so yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, what's going on with me these days. And just, I guess, to finish up, I'll just say that, yeah, we've kind of, I opened by saying it's kind of decision time about what we're gonna do with this school. We're not making any money. We're spending a fair bit of money, or I'm spending a fair bit of money on running it. So we've got one more idea for how to set things up that hopefully will let people get cheaper classes. So yeah, so hopefully we're going to launch that next month. So maybe we'll have a follow-up what's going on with you with much better news in a couple of months' time. But yes, oh, the name of the school is Practical English. So I can drop the website is practicalenglish.school. So yeah, and actually it has a very attractive website I've been working really hard on that makes no money. So if anyone is interested in owning a website or someone creating a website that looks really good and makes no money, the ELT Workshop creative division is here for you. We'll do some consulting, we'll set that up. So yeah, okay. So I don't know, was there anything I missed in the chat, Mike? I wasn't paying much attention.
There was lots of, excuse me, there was lots of good, interesting comments. Specific questions. Nothing jumped out at me as something you needed to answer right now to my mind. Someone asked if the reason you moved was for greener pastures.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot this week, like in preparation for the talk. I guess I've been almost too busy to really reflect on things sometimes. And yeah, I don't know, like, I think sometimes it's just very easy, like if you're not like completely satisfied with everything, it's very easy to blame it on your job or the city you live in. And you think, oh yeah, like things are going to be better when I move to X. And then you move to X and it's all really good. And then maybe in 6 months' time, you're like, oh, well, I saw this job advertisement in blah, blah, blah. Maybe if I move to there, things will be much better. So yeah, I guess for me, I don't know if it's like greener pastures or just kind of, yeah, maybe just kind of blaming everything on the city you live in when you live there, and instead of making the most of that. So,
if I were in Beijing instead of this town, everything would be great.
Yeah, yeah.
Sarah asked, do you peak too early in a job? I think that's kind of a general question, not just a Tim question. Sometimes, I guess, Sarah, you can jump in if you feel like it. The question of maybe as teachers we peak too early and then decide it's time to go.
I think sometimes you can sort of be so keen in the job in the early stages that you sort of do everything, maybe get a kind of promotion early on, and then maybe you plateau perhaps. I don't know. It was just a question basically for us to think about.
Yeah,
I think it's a really good question.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when I was at university, I had a friend who worked at McDonald's, and I guess like he was I guess he wasn't the sort of guy who'd expect to work at McDonald's. I guess that sounds really mean and classist, but he was kind of a war studies student and doing all of these things. But he was like, oh no, actually it's the best place to work because the turnover and people who work there, people come and work for 6 months. So if you stay for a year, you're probably going to be a manager or like an assistant manager. So it was his kind of like everyone was kind of expecting, oh, why aren't you going to do internships at these places? He's like, oh well, no, I'm getting all these skills and doing all these management things. So he's being very smart about it. So yeah, but yeah, I think English language teaching can be the same, especially I guess places where I started off anyway in Korea. Like if you've worked in Korea for a year, you're probably among like the 50-60%, like the top 40-30% of most experienced teachers. So when you're applying for jobs, you get more demand, and yeah, like lots of people just come for a year and then disappear. So yeah, and I guess maybe that affects how people think about the job, and maybe some people are very careerist and want to do it long term, and lots of schools just don't care about that. So I think it is possible to peak too early, isn't it? It's I think that's definitely a thing.
So Tim, you had some questions that you prepared for us to discuss in the breakout rooms, yes?
Yeah, let's see how these copy and paste across. Are they going to come across weird? They are going to come across weird. That's really annoying. Okay, I'm just going to put those in the chat. I think, oh yeah, those are okay. Yeah, so yeah, sorry, Mike, I don't want to take over as host.
No, okay, so you're doing fine. So your questions there that you cut and pasted instead of me are for us to discuss when we break out into breakout rooms for discussions. The way that we do it here in these what's going on with you sessions, we like now separate into small groups, and there's no sort of final goodbye or final plenary or wrap-up session or anything like that. So even though you're not the host, Tim, you are the host on Zoom. So so Tim will separate us into groups, and then we'll go into our groups, and you can chat with your group, ideally with these questions, but of course, if other things caught your interest, you can discuss those using Tim's story as a backdrop. Just to reiterate, not exactly looking for suggestions on how to fix these issues, but this is sort of fodder for our own reflection and our own discussions. And then, when if people have to go or whatever, that's fine. Tim can move you to a new room because he's the host on Zoom. And it's not like a passive aggressive complaint that I'm not made the host. I'm just
and you can be like, it's less work for me. So.
And so if you get lost, if people leave you, it's not your fault. And then you can move to another room and continue discussion on these points. So what I want to say is, please don't be too stressed about answering the specific questions in order. They're a guideline, but they can be helpful to get conversations going. So that's all I have to say. And I want to say thank you, Tim, for being our wonderful guest. And thank you all for coming, and enjoy your conversations in small groups. Some of you will be lucky enough to have Tim in your group.
Okay, shall I send people off to some rooms before Mike embarrasses me even more? Thanks for coming, everyone, if I don't get to chat to you in the next bit. Okay.
Such stress, animosity.